All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the content. So we got a article here from That Park Place with a headline that reads, Bloomberg reporter claims that Sweet Baby Inc. boycott that crushed Suicide Squad killed the Justice League sales is angry hallucinations created by grifters. Now, this one comes from a known reporter who's been in the scene for a while. I don't know if you guys recognize this name, but Jason Schreier. He used to work at Kotaku. Do you guys know Jason Schreier? He's been around for a while. Okay. Apparently, he works at Bloomberg now. I didn't know that, but he's coping and seething, ladies and gentlemen. He's coping and seething because he's trying to make it seem as if this entire thing is just grifters essentially lying about Suicide Squad. Now, I said in my video that I have coming out tomorrow, if it ever make it to Nerd Wars, which I don't know if it will, but hopefully it does. But I've, yeah, that guy. Yeah, everybody seems to know his name. Yeah, okay, good. So we're on the same page. Jason Schreier is essentially trying to make us think that all the numbers that we've been seeing are essentially not true. Like it's all just made up in the air, right? Absolute nonsense. Anybody who knows what's going on knows that this is absolute nonsense and is coping and seething, right? The reason why I say this is quite frankly, the numbers don't lie, right? And even if you didn't believe us, right? Even if you didn't want to believe me, even if you didn't want to believe, I guess, like anybody writing articles, even if you didn't want to believe other YouTubers, at the end of the day, the people who put out the numbers of the $200 million loss, that was Warner Brothers themselves. That wasn't us that put out that number. Warner Brothers on an earnings call came out and talked about how much they were losing on Suicide Squad and how difficult it was for them to comp in Q1 compared to the year before. Now, we've spoken about many different reasons why. Obviously, one of the reasons is because Hogwarts Legacy was such a massive success, and it still ends up being a massive success till this day. I think it's like number 5 of the top selling games for this month alone, and I'm pretty sure it's been that way for the rest of the year as well. So it goes to show that they themselves have admitted that this is a massive failure. They invested too much money. They didn't get enough of a return. The player, you think we're making up the player base dwindling? So we just made up the 13,000 people that left the Steam game. Like we just made all that up. That's why I don't like people like Jason Schreier when they decide to want to shill. They'll shill completely disingenuously and pretend as if everybody is just making it up. We're just making it up. We're grifting. That's all it is. We're grifting on the failure of Suicide Squad. So again, ladies and gentlemen, let's get a little bit into it and see what he said. Schreier recently published an article for Bloomberg claiming to reveal inside details about the failure of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. In his article, he claims that the game's $200 million failure is due to a constantly shifting vision, a culture of rigid perfectionism, and a genre pivot that was ill-suited for the studio. He also noted that the game was plagued by countless delays. Now, every single one of these things, right? So constantly shifting vision, culture of rigid perfectionism, genre pivot that they weren't suited for, and plagued by countless delays, all of this can be tied to one thing and one thing only, and it's not even wokeness, ladies and gentlemen. You can tie it literally to just corporate greed. The entire reason why the game was pivoted from potential single player to live service was because of corporate greed. They were greedy. They wanted the money that they thought that they can make from a live service game because they saw all these other live service games be successful. But the funny thing is, all they did was pay attention to the successes and they didn't look at the failures. There were so many more failures for a live service model than they were successes. There's only so many gamers that can go around. So if you start making every game into a live service game, it's going to be impossible for people to want to keep up. I'm not going to play 5 or 6 live service games. Who the hell got time for that shit? What, 12-year-olds? Like, it's just impossible. I can't do it. I could barely keep up with what? So again, I don't understand why every single studio thinks that every game has to be a live service game. And I've been saying this from the start. If Suicide Squad stuck to essentially the single player aspect, which is what made them big in the first place, right? The Arkham games made them big. if they stuck to that, they would not be in the situation they're in right now. I would guarantee it. Not only would they not have spent as much money because the budget would be a lot less, but they also probably would have been able to be more firm in terms of a deadline for the game because there wouldn't be so many pivots. There wouldn't be so many delays. They would be, okay, we know what we're doing. We've done this before. Let's just do it again, but better, and from a Suicide Squad perspective. That's it. That's all they would have to have done. But unfortunately, corporate greed got in the way, and they said, you know what? Hey, we need a live service model. And Rocksteady was like, well, we don't know how to do that. And they were just like, hey, figure it out. Figure it out. That's it. And guess what? They did figure it out. They did. They lost $200 million figuring it out. It's incredible. So I love to see this. I really do. Because I think that one of the things, aside from obviously wokeness and all that crap that we deal with on a daily basis, I think corporate greed and in the mainstream gaming industry is something that needs to be tackled as well. And it's not talked about enough. Whenever we see these games come out that are usually DEI infested nonsense, everybody tends to focus on the DEI stuff, and nobody talks about the fact, very few anyway, nobody talks about the fact that the game is like $140 fucking for an Ultimate Edition. Nobody talks about that because they're too busy complaining about the DEI nonsense. It's almost as if they are using DEI to distract the fact that they are overcharging on these games drastically, right? So we need to take down corporate greed on top of the woke nonsense that we deal with every single day, because both of them go hand in hand. And I think it's a big problem. It's definitely a big problem in the gaming industry. So if you agree with that, like the stream, ladies and gentlemen, so we can get to over 300 viewers on this extremely ghetto on the road hypnocast that we're doing. Oh my God. Let's continue because this gets good. However, he makes no mention of Sweet Baby Inc. Steam curator list created by Brazilian gamer Cabrutus Rambo that has nearly 400,000 followers. The list is essentially a boycott list of all games that Sweet Baby Inc. worked on. They're available to purchase on Steam. The first game added to the list was actually, in fact, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. So I think it's hilarious that they will not. Oh, wow. John Bon Zombie said it's $169.99 in Canada. That is insanity. But again, the corporate greed aspect's ridiculous. I find it hilarious that they don't want to ever acknowledge the fact that the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League failure has to be attributed, at least in some way, shape, or form, to the fact that it was the first game to show up on a super viral list, right? This list was going mega viral, and it decided it was the first game to go on that list. So that ended up making it something that it was a target, right? So people were fed up. Obviously, people were realizing, hey, this list is out there. It was growing rapidly. I think at one point the list was growing by like 50,000 a day or something ridiculous like that, 50K or whatever a day, sometimes even more. It was honestly pretty damn insane. And since that list was growing so much, all those people who were joining the list, the one and only game that they saw on that list was Suicide Squad. So that had to play a big factor in the overall look of the game, the failure of the game. But let's be real. Even if that game wasn't on the list, right? That game was doomed to fail from the beginning. It just didn't work, right? You have a live service model, but then you have a game that comes out that is broken. It's unplayable for some people. You got people going into the game who wanted to give it a genuine shot, and they couldn't even experience it because it was broken. You didn't want to pay for any actual testing or any actual Q&A, any of that stuff. You didn't want to do it. You just wanted the gamers to be the beta tester. And that's another issue that we deal with in gaming overall. So you have corporate greed and you have corporate idiocy. just take it all together, right? So I think that no matter what, this game was doomed to fail. It just didn't have the proper support behind it. It didn't have the proper passion behind it. There was no passion. All it was literal greed. Hey, how can we profit massively off of the DC franchise? Is there any way for us to do so? And that was it. That was it. And now they realize that, hey, they actually can't profit off of it. They got screwed. So I'm all for it. I'm happy. I'm excited to see this go down. And I can't wait to see more of what's going to happen. He says Hypnotic, the Steam page is almost at 400K right now. Yeah, it actually stagnated at like high 390s. I noticed it stagnated at high 390s. This page should have hit 400K a long time ago. It just didn't, unfortunately. So hopefully we can get some more traction on it. But I think the page has served its purpose, and people are going to be utilizing it from here on out. That and the website. You got to understand, it's not just the page. The page has now become an entirely different website that people go for. So that's really what's important.